Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart, you're doing
Taking pictures like, I don't want my picture
Taken.
Do you?
In that case, taken.
In that case, taken. But, I guess y'all want to talk about this Black Panther thing, but we're going to have to clear one of the lines.
Kwesi's on the line.
Oh, we got him. Beautiful, because y'all want to go Black Panther, but we got to talk about Black Weekend. We have one of the master teachers. We're going to talk about Black Weekend, all week next week. We've been doing things all month long, trying to keep you in the cultural divide that you need to survive, to give you the intestinal fortitude to, know that you melanated. And when you see the books in stone, as I had just been pleasured to do, in my face, not just on TV, not National Geographic, not on the internet. And if you go to Like It Is Radio, you can see the pictures that this gentleman and his lovely wife, the master teacher amongst us, Professor Mira, and that's his wife, Mira, and Ashra Kwesi, they've been going back to Kemet, if you will, so long. I'm not even going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, they worked with Dr. Ben. He's the person that you see in those pictures when we go as a young man, that now is a now seasoned individual. He's worked with the greats. He's translating and working with us to give us the imaging we need to know. We were here first. Most of these stories that we were told range from these books in stone that you will travel. If you do travel, you can check it out. Kemet New. That's right, Kemet New. It's also connected to our Like It Is page, kemetnew.com, because you got to see it. If you see it, then you'll know something is wrong. If you see it, you'll know what you felt inside is right. I got the pleasure of talking with him and becoming acquainted with him, and I'm going to tell you, it's changed me. You thought I was a revolutionary before. Now I'm fortified with the knowledge to know why I am a revolutionary. So without any further ado, our own master teacher, Professor, how are you doing? What's going on? Hotep, sir.
Hotep. Peace, my brother. It's an honor to be on your show, Brother Franklin, and you are always a great inspiration, especially when we were in Kemet, the Taneta land, the original Holy Land. And when you would say Hotep, you would always give me that great inspiration to keep on moving forward, even though being out there in the field, my brother. So it's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, with
and,
pleasure.
I appreciate the title as well, the master teacher, but I have to look at Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and many of the other grand master teachers. Without them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Well, thank God that you are, because I'm going to tell you, Hotep, I could only tell you, we are going to have the opportunity to speak and see and to uncover some of the stuff that this man has been doing through the course of his life. He'll be here next week, next Friday. As you know how we do it, Kemet in the Desert series, the 5th annual, come out Friday night. We are going to have him and his lovely wife, and they will be lecturing us. In addition to that, to the production that Mr. Oscar Robinson always brings for us, that'll be the second night of our 5th annual Kemet in the Desert series. And the first night, we got Dr. Renoko Rashidi. If it's black, he gonna find it. He's a global world traveler, historian, and then we'll be doing all of this at the West Las Vegas Library Theater for free. The events all start at about 6. Get in line. You know how we do. We pack the house. But I'll get back to the master teacher. Sir, how are you doing? And thank you again for the time that you're going to grant to us to teach us. And I just got to ask you one question before you get into your subject matter. Recently, I'm so glad I went. I just saw what they uncovered, sir, and they tried to tell us this was Nefertiti. I just have to ask you right off the top, sir. What is your proposal or imaging of what they've given to us, seen based on what you know? Did that look like what we know?
Well, that's definitely Mary Roth's area. In fact, she's been dealing with that Nefertiti bust for many, many years, in fact, in her cultural destruction of African fashion. And in fact, that's the lecture that she's coming with. I don't know why, but my voice is coming back to me, but I'll keep on talking.
Okay.
But,
keep going. We can hear you fine.
Yeah. But her presentation, she actually deals with Nefertiti. And Nefertiti, that is the wife of Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty. And most of us know Nefertiti. If we don't know Nefertiti, we know Cleopatra. Unfortunately, some of the indigenous Syria's queens, like Nefertari, that means the most beautiful, Nefertari the First, or Nefertari the Second. Nefertari the First was the beginning of the 18th dynasty. Her husband, Neb-Petty-Rod-Most the First. So these are the great ones of ancient Kemet. But Europeans have always tried to take away the African history. As I always talk about Hegel, who was a German philosopher in the 1700s, and said Egypt wasn't even part of Africa. So that's what started the whole academic racism. So a lot of black folks, and you tell them you're going to Africa, and they say, where in Africa? And you say you're going to Egypt. And they say, oh, Egypt is not in Africa. Well, that's because of Hegel. And from that time out, most people don't even look at Egypt as being in Africa. As Brother Franklyn, as you know, when you were back there with us, and we were in the Cairo Museum, and we took you in the back room and see a minaret of the Middle Kingdom over 4,000 years ago, the 12th dynasty, and you saw how, nose is knocked off. It seems like the more prominent African features with wide nose and thick lips, those are the ones that are destroyed. And also, we went on the second floor, and with Maspero, who was the curator of the museum of the late 18 and early 1900s, when we talked about Mahabharata, they said he's Negroid, but not actually a Negro, even though you can clearly see him black. So I guess Maspero said, I got to say something about this melanated skin of Mahabharata. He's clearly black, so I'll just say he's Negroid, but not actually a Negro. So this is all done to try to take away the African history of African people, and we're talking about the zenith right there in Kemet, which even Kemet means black itself. And that's why we call our organization Kemet Nude. It means black people. So again, this is all part of the destruction, as Barry Vivian Dinan, who witnessed Napoleon, who the hatred of the African colossals, as Dr. Ben in his book Black Man of the Now, where he talks about when Napoleon blew off the nose. And then now you got people out there talking about this was an urban myth, but yet the Grand Masters and Dr. Ben has always specialized in Kemet, okay? But yet we don't want to respect those who are specialized in Kemet and have spent most of their life documenting the information, doing serious in-depth research, and now you've got Negroes coming out talking about that never happened, okay? But yet when I see somebody specializing in something, brother, I'm going to respect them because I know they've done a lot of research. So Dr. Ben done serious research and talked about how Napoleon blew off the nose, and that's where we get to the 21 gun salute. So this has always been the hatred. Okay, and let's not forget that National Geographic, brother. Remember National Geographic came out with this Boy George looking King Tutankhamun on the cover, and where that Arabized Egyptian named Azadi Hawaz, who also dug up, King Tutankhamun, okay, of the 18th dynasty. He's famous because Carter robbed his tomb in November 1922. And even though he's got the smallest tomb in the West Bank in the Valley of the Kings, but it's famous because it was intact. But here we see Zadia Waz had dug him back up. King Tutankhamun can't rest in peace, and they want to find out if he's African or not. Okay, so again, this is a part of the racism. Okay, trying to destroy the African civilization because Europeans have no ancient history. When we look at the European history, the best that we can go back to is Homer in the Iliad and the Odyssey, and we're talking about, at best, and giving them a little bit of time, 800 years BC. But again, when you talk about African history, now you're talking about thousands of years. And that thousands of years of history that came up out of the fallopian tube. And I'm talking about the fallopian tube of the Happy Valley, that 4,200 miles of the Nile. So all of this has been done, my brother, to continue to try to erase the African history of the Nile Valley. So this has been going on, even going back to Martin Delaney and many of the others, David Walker, when they all talked about Kemet and talked about how this is our African civilization and this is what we have to return back to. So this is a lecture that I have lectured on for many years, and 14 years with the Grand Master teacher, Dr. Ben, when I heard him back in 1973 at Long Beach State. And at that time, I did not know about our story, in fact, how depth it is, the in-depthness of the African history. And I asked Dr. Ben after his lecture, can you prove this? He said, young man, I can take you back and show you. That's the first time someone told me that they can show me. He said, but above all, we need young people like you to go back and do field research. So it was 1981, making that journey with him, 14 years doing apprenticeship under him, and now 37 years nonstop, returning back and bringing brothers and sisters back and the freeing of the African mind. So that's why we refer to him as the books in stone. As you've witnessed, Brother Franklin, nothing like it on the planet Earth. The story our ancestors wrote endlessly on the monuments and temples. So again, back to Nefertari, this is a continuation of trying to destroy the African history. But Mary Ross, she's going to come with her lecture,
yes,
and she's going to show that bust that she's been showing for years, okay? Because, see, Europeans, the way they do it, Brother Franklin, every decade they come out because they know a new generation of black folks are coming out. So to make sure that they want to erase the history, then they'll come and repeat the same thing. So this Nefertari thing has been going on for the last 20, 30 years, all right? So it's really not new. And as I said, even with National Geographic or King Tutankhamun, continuously in National Geographic, they alluded to Caucasoid features, okay? There's no such thing as a Caucasoid feature. Okay, when you look at African people, we have the variety of facial features that you can see throughout the African continent. Whether we got wide nose, thin nose, thick lips, and thin lips, but it seems the ones that got the wide nose and thick lips are the ones that destroy. So again, these are the things that we have to look at. They do not want us to identify with ancient Kemet, because there we can see an ancient African history going back thousands of years before the European and Western world was even in existence. This is what gave birth to religion. African spirituality gave birth to religion, gave birth to Western civilization. And the number one thing that they fear, Brother Franklin, is the unlocking of the African mind, the unlocking of the African history, lying dormant, still in this neo-slavery that we're in today. And that neo-slavery is mental slavery today. So what we try to do is create that drapetomania that the Europeans called this disease of a runaway. So those who return back to Africa, as you notice on the trip, brother, I said we were all runaways because we ran off the plantation of America and ran back to Africa to, as the Sankofa bird in West Africa said, to go back to retrieve that which we have lost, my brother.
No doubt. No, you bring it through, and it comes right back to life as the moment you get off the bus, getting into the hotel. So I can't thank you enough for the experience. And he will be here not this weekend, next Friday at the West Las Vegas Library Theater. He and his lovely wife. It's the 5th annual Kemet in the Desert show. You can go to Like It Is Radio and see some of the images that I was able to capture, because I will tell you, it's different when you see it for yourself. It's just so beautiful. It's like, I can tell you, when I remember going to the Dr. King Museum in Lorraine Hotel, I saw those images my whole life. But when you get to stand there, it's a whole different thing. And some of those images that that were created, they show us the original medicines, the original hospital room, if you will, Professor, correct?
That's right. There's the Prof, or the House of Life. And there, as you witnessed, the medical instruments, the Imhotep, who was a physician 2,000 years before Hippocrates. Okay, here's an African who also gave of the earth, okay, of 25,000 miles of circumference of the earth long before the Athenian Eratosthenes. So there, even the stethoscope. So here when we think of it going to the hospital and the doctor always has the stethoscope hanging off of him, there you see it carved in stone. And we go to the Prague and we go to the rooms where they have the procedures at, okay? And some of these rooms they have locked up, okay? They don't want people to see the fact that this is actually carved in stone, but fortunately they carved on the outside too, so you're right outside looking at in fact, Imhotep's prescription he actually gave his patients, all right? And you saw the bowl where he had to wash his hands right before surgery. So again, fortunately, they carved this on stone for us to see it. And so that's one the reason why we come with visual documentation, because images shape our reality. Unfortunately, it's shaped by more of the television today. So we come for people to think about the knowledge of, as you know, last year, brother, we came with the African origin of civilization, and Mary Rock came with Sisters in the Struggle. So in this class, in this community, in parroting Cohen, Bobby Wright, going back to what Bobby Wright called the community. And that's what you have. This one mine will be on African history and the origin of the Bible. That's very important to understand that the original holy writings and ideas that we see actually came from African people that you have witnessed when you return back with us on the Books in Stone. And Mary Ra is going to be the culture destruction of African fashion. When we think of fashion and clothes, the information that she has there and how they're desecrating it and using, ancient clothes that you see, that you saw the queens and the kings wearing in ancient Kemet, and now they got them on their little catwalk, okay, and literally using it as a fashion today. She's going to get all into that as well. So that's going to be a powerhouse, and we look forward to it.
Yes, we're definitely looking forward to the weekend that you and your wife bring to us, because after you leave, I'm telling you, the energy that exists in this city is just overwhelming. People come up to me for months after your lectures and say, yo, but I know there's a whole group of people out there who are wanting to go. So how can they catch up with you and see some of the other things that you're doing? Could you tell us your website again one more time, sir?
Yes, our website is Kemet New. Again, that means black people. Kemet New, that's spelled KEMETNU.com. In fact, we have to do 2 tours in Kemet every summer because we have so many people that we have to do 2 tours. So our tours will be in July, okay? So that'll be in July 4th to July 21st and July 21st to August 4th. So July 7th to August, July 7th to July 21st, and then from the 21st to August 4th. So that's 15 days each. So you can go on the site and see the brochure. You can print out the brochure. You can sign up right online. We have it there. It's all professionally done. You can even see video footage of us previous tours and lectures right there in the field for an eyewitness account. So this is about education for liberation. And going back to Kemet, this is what we do it for. We do it as a balance because Mary Rock, she equally, we do it together. So not only you see it from a masculine point of view, an African man's point of view, but also from a feminine African woman's point of view. And we both lecture in the field. We lecture, as you know, brother, and coming back into the hotels. We don't do no looky-loo tours, just run people over there. And some people take people over to Kemet and don't even go out in the field with them. Just leave it up to some of the tour guides over there that's not going to reveal some of these reliefs. So what I try to specialize in is taking brothers and sisters, as you were with us, to sites and reliefs, okay, that many of the tours guides don't even go to, and some of them don't even know about it, and sometimes they don't even want to talk about it because they may fear it may conflict with some of their religious beliefs. But again, that's our mission. And go ahead, my brother.
No, I would say that's definitely true. I would tell you all, during the course of our tour, when we would stop somewhere, other tour people would hear what this brother was putting down, our master teacher, he and his wife, and they would try to get in on with us. And we had to scare them away. I'm going to tell you, because one dude was serious about it. We saw him a couple of days. And he's like, I just don't get what I said, I know you can't get this, sir, but you got to be with us. So I would tell you, the master teacher, when other tours are there, you're pulling other tours, sir. And I've seen it for myself. It's just a wonderful thing.
Yes, it's an eyewitness account, and that's what it's all about. Again, it's time for the final emancipation, Brother Franklin. The final emancipation is what? Is our mind. Keep in mind, they took the chains off our body and put it on our brain. So again, what's important about ancient Kemet, we can validate a lot of stuff that we got in the European classroom, okay, that I refer to as a psychological gas chamber, because all we got was a European white supremacy point of view. But here we can validate where the Greeks and many others came and plagiarized these ideas directly from ancient Kemet. So we go to the greatest temples on the planet Earth, Ipit-Asut, right there, called Karnak today. The earliest university, still there, okay, Ipit-Asut, okay. And again, is the temple will blow your mind. The monuments will blow your mind. The pyramids will blow your mind. But what really blows your mind are the reliefs. That's why we concentrate on the reliefs and do that comparative analysis. Because it's that comparative analysis that we can see without question. And once you have a critical analytical analysis to think and see where these things were literally copied, that's why I put the pictures, as you know, Brother Franklin, right up to the relief. And you can see where these ideas were copied directly from the temple. So as I tell people, you're walking in the book. You're in the book. These are the books in stone, massive structures, all right, that we know about the Vatican. We know about Westminster Abbey. We know about the Parthenon and all these other places. But when it comes down to Ipit-Asut and Karnak, then all of a sudden we don't know where these places are when we say these names, but this is where the Western world and the Greeks and the Romans and the Byzantine Christians and Arabs and many others came and copied ideas, okay, in the making of the world and much of what we know in the world today. And so that's the importance of doing that after we're out in the field. We lecture in the field. When we come back from the field, as you know, Brother Franklin, we lecture every day in the hotel.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I make sure that I have to stay in shape. Okay, 365 days, because I know I got to do this tour, brother, for 30 days. I know I got to be out there in that field, okay, down in the trenches with this knowledge. So that's the importance of being out there. And just because we know the impact, okay, that once we do it this way, we know that's going to be a free African when they leave Kemet and come back to America and come back here. We know that they're going to unlock that ancestral genetic memory bank. Like I said, we all have a genius within us. But it's a matter of evoking that genius, okay, and evoking that genius, and as Dr. Clark, peace be upon him, who said, take what you do best and do it for our people. And this is our mission, knowing that this passage called life, we have a limited amount of time here, so we do the best that we possibly can, okay, to do it for our people. And fortunately, I've been out of the system, okay, working in the system for over 3 decades. So this is what we do. I don't work in the system. This is 100% our job. Okay, in the helping of the liberation of African people and taking brothers and sisters back and being in the field every day and lecturing in the hotels with the lectures that we have seen the effects of this knowledge. Like one sister who brought her son back who was failing in school. I tell the story all the time because it was such a profound impact even on me. And I said, wow, he gets a trip because he's failing in school. He gets a trip to Egypt. But that was the best thing she did for him, because when the Prof that you mentioned earlier, okay, the books in stone, where the Western idea of hospital came from. Here, that young man was so impressed with the medical instruments of Imhotep. In fact, he even looked like Imhotep, who lived almost 5,000 years ago, by the way. And in fact, he was so impressed with the medical instruments, okay, that I met that young man years later, and he was in med school. So that shows the power of knowledge, that the knowledge has the same effect that a basketball and a football have, okay, on young black men, because they are able to see black men in it, playing football and basketball. So when we see ourselves in knowledge, it also has the same effect. That's why knowledge is power. So here, that young man, I'm sure he's a medical doctor now, but that was the impact it had on him, because he was able to see his ancestors who started medicine, like Imhotep, who was the world's first physician.
First class. I'm going to let you go because I know you're getting ready to travel. Tell your lovely wife we're looking forward to seeing you. Shall we?
I actually have a question, yes. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm so excited about being able to see your lecture. My question is this. With all the knowledge and information and research and studying that you've done, along with Leonard Jeffries and Dr. Ben, have you guys ever been challenged by any of the European historians on this subject of Kemet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, especially when we look at the 80s, coming out of the 70s into the 80s, and the whole African-centered movement, and also we see African study groups were booming in the 80s, okay, and the black bookstores were booming in the 80s. So Europeans saw this as a fear, especially when we have black studies programs on the university campuses, and many of the black faculty members who were bringing us in to lecture at many of the universities, and especially when many of the students who came and to the lectures and came back to challenge the European white professors on the fact that Imhotep, and Ptahhotep, who predated Socrates and Archimedes and Pythagoras by thousands of years, and talking about where the Greeks got their knowledge from, especially in Dr. George G. and James' book, The Stolen Legacy. So Europeans saw this was a fear. This was starting to put a crack in the white supremacy academia. So this started to be an attack on the whole African-centered movement about 1990. In fact, you mentioned Dr. Jeffries. In fact, Dr. Jeffries was on either Newsweek or Time. And the reason why they put Dr. Jeffries on Newsweek or Time, because Dr. Jeffries was talking about the African-centered education and the importance of having the African-centered education in the schools, especially that we can validate where this knowledge came from. Then there was a serious attack on Dr. Jeffries, okay, as well as many others, even myself, back during that time, for fear of this knowledge coming out. And the biggest fear is that there would not be any deification of Western academia, because most of us, and we've been taught that the world was in savagery until the Europeans came on the scene, and that was not the case. I mean, here you got the greatest structures on the planet Earth, like the Great Pyramid of Khufu, and it's not in Asia, it's not in Europe, it's on the African continent. But the awakening of the African mind, this became a fear. So you had the Diane Ravages, the Schlesingers, they came out and started to attack all the African scholars, like Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and many others. And they got a European lady by the name of Liskowicz, okay, who said, not out of Africa, all right? And here they were for fear that the whole Greco-Roman world that they were taught in Western academia, that this could not stand now that we got this Kemetic knowledge. So yes, it definitely was challenged, okay? And in fact, Dr. Cheikh Diop, who 1974, who took on some Europeans and Arabs in Cairo, right. Okay, in terms of the black origins of ancient Egypt, okay, and not only the black origins of ancient Egypt, okay, but the origin of Western civilization and Western academia, all coming from African people from the Nile Valley. And in fact, Dr. Diop wiped them all out with his documentation that he had there. So yes, this was a serious threat back during that time, and yes, they did challenge it and realize that the information, it was well documented by many of us, many of the African scholars, like the Grandmaster teachers, Dr. Ben, that you mentioned, and many others who were on TV shows and college campuses. They knew that they could not stand with this knowledge. They didn't realize how equipped that we were with that information, especially when you start to see the images that they've done everything, as Brother Franklin opened up with Nefertiti, and trying to, again, Europeanize, okay, ancient Kemet. And this is still going on to this very day. So, yes, that challenge is taking place. And unfortunately, the attack came on many people who had jobs, in the university system. And because of, again, they were fear of their jobs and so forth, many people went underground. Many of our people did not know that there was a serious attack, during the 90s. The 90s was a time where they were trying to wipe out this knowledge. In fact, a good book to get, peace be upon him, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, in his book, Intellectual Warfare. And Dr. Jacob Carruthers documents thoroughly this time period that I'm talking about, and all these Europeans who were attacking, who felt there was a serious threat with us dealing with this knowledge. But keep in mind that not only did it happen in 1990s, during that time, but we can go all the way back to the 1700s, when that took place, when we were identifying our institutions in Africa. Prince Hall did not call the lodge the Masonic Lodge Prince Hall. He called it the African Lodge, When we look at the AME Church and when we see the Methodist Episcopal Church, we see Richard Allen, he called it the African Methodist Episcopal. So they were putting African on everything. So they saw that was a threat. And they started to attack the African identity. That's how we ended up with the N-word, and coons and all this negativity to make sure we would not identify with our African identity, because identifying with our African identity, that would take us back to Africa. That would be the freeing of the African mind. So this is an ongoing process, and every new generation that comes up, they make sure that attack still comes in to neutralize ancient African civilization, and to Europeanize it, to make black folks think that they had nothing to do with it. When you look at that now, Egypt, when we look at Egypt, we look at where Egypt is beginning, it's all starting with ancient Kush. It goes deep into the Nile Valley. So when you look at the books in stone, that story that you see on the temples, all is talking about Inner Africa.
Right.
The zoop types that they have, the animals, they're not coming from Europe, they're not coming from Arabia or Asia. It's all coming from Africa. Everything on there. That's why, Brother Franklin, as you know, one of the things that I love to do is taking brothers and sisters and putting them right next to a niece. And then he busts, and the guardian and the brothers and sisters just gasp.
Because they look the same.
The same exact picture. The same exact picture. So this is what the Europeans fear, They have no ancient history. And knowing that the unlocking of the African mind as the fear on the plantation, the number one fear on the plantation, that the slave would awaken to the fact that his history was older than his slave master's history. And that was the biggest fear that the slave master had. And that's the biggest fear that they still have to this very day. Keep in mind, we've only been out of slavery 150 years. That's nothing. So it's mental now.
Right.
They want to keep a slave culture. They want to keep the N-word that was made on that plantation. They want to make sure they are happy to hear us call each other that, because they whipped Africa out of us. So again, the attack on the same institutions of the 17 and 1800s is the same attack that's still going on today. It hasn't stopped.
That's
and
true.
That's the biggest fear. That's why I always say, Brother Franklin, somebody knows something about us that they don't want us to know about ourselves.
And you've been giving it to us. You've been giving it to us, sir. I'm going to let you get out of here because we got to close out the show. I appreciate your time, your energy. We look forward to seeing the master teachers, the both of them, husband and wife team, doing it, keeping that balance that I saw in Kemet for myself. And I'm going to tell you, if you wonder why George Washington is standing that way with his left leg out, if you wonder why Napoleon stands that way, or even if our Supreme Court justices, you look at the imagery of the wall that this man, this master teacher, he and his wife are showing us. They're on the walls in Egypt standing the same way. Power.
That's right. Merowica 4,000 years ago, my brother. And we appreciate your radio station for education, for liberation.
Well, you're a part of that. We'll see you next Friday, and this will all be happening as part of the 5th annual Kemet In The Desert series. Tell me your lovely wife I said hello. Travel safe. We will see you soon. Thank you so much.
That's not too sound, my brother.
All right, Hotep.
Hotep.
Hotep. Oh, man. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to seeing the professor again, because we are just in the middle of our Black History Month, and I thought it was important to have him again, because I'm telling you, you can go to my webpage, not my webpage, but my Facebook page. I also have a webpage, Like It Is Radio, that will take you to the webpage. But you go to Like It Is Radio. Scroll down a bit, because it happened last year. You know, we've been doing a lot of things since then, son. But If you go look at those pictures, the pictures that I was able to take standing next to those temples, going back to Karnak. We travel on the Nile on a beautiful cruise. The trip is off the chain. That's what I can tell you. We going next year. We going in 19. I got a wedding to go to this year when I go, but we're gonna go tour 2 next year. So I'm trying to get some folks from Vegas because my brother Jamie, I know he's listening. I got to the airport late. Brother Jamie was already in line. It said be there at 12. I was there about 1:45. And it was an international flight, Joseph. So you know that line was long. I walked in, I was tired, I was beat up because I've been hanging out in New York. And his brother said, Franklyn G. I was like, oh man, I'm in trouble again. And Brother Jamie, I didn't even know this brother, but he came to the lecture and he saw what Professor Ashra Kwesi was bringing. And he came on the tour, unbeknownst to myself. Told me, get in line right here. I said, no, there's a law like that. He don't mind. That brother, we hung out the whole tour, but I didn't know him until he came to the lecture, Cheryl, and then just jumped on it. So we're going to jump on it in 19, but you go to Kemet New.